You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Around every entry point and every clever attacker, Spectre sees the attacks others can't. How? Spectre has AI on it. Spectre's AI attacks signal intelligence, tells security teams where to focus, what matters. It wades through thousands of individual threat events so you don't have to. Attackers infiltrating your network? Spectre has AI on it. Attackers compromising your identities? Spectre has AI on it. Vectra AI, the integrated signal powering your XDR. Visit vectra.ai/showme to learn more. That's vectra.ai/showme to learn more. An alleged Australian scammer wanted by the FBI gets nabbed in Italy. The Internet Archive has been breached again. Researchers discover vulnerabilities in encrypted cloud storage platforms. Cisco confirms stolen files but insists it's not a data breach. A Chinese disinformation group targets Senator Marco Rubio. Malicious chatbot prompts can hide inside harmless ones. The DoD wants to offer senior cyber executives part-time roles as military reservists. 6 years out, the specter of Spectre remains. Russian prosecutors seek prison for REvil operators. Our guest is Pete Newell, founder and CEO of BMNT, speaking with N2K's Brandon Karpf about challenges associated with technology adoption and change in the DoD. And Microsoft uses clever deception to reel in the phishers. It's Monday, October 21st, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your Cyberwire Intel Briefing. Thank you once again for joining us here today. Great, as always, to have you with us. An Australian man wanted by the FBI for a $46 million online scam was arrested in Milan, Italy. This 44-year-old, described by authorities as Italo-Australian, had been dodging law enforcement for over 3 years. Interpol tipped off Italian border police, who nabbed him at Malpensa Airport as he got off a flight from Singapore. The scam itself? Well, it was a classic tech support fraud, but with a nasty twist. Victims, mostly elderly folks, were duped into thinking their computers were compromised. A fake error message popped up telling them to call for help. Once on the line, they were convinced to fork over money for technical assistance that, surprise, did not exist. The FBI's investigation estimated the gang's ill-gotten gains around $31 million. Authorities are now working on extraditing the suspect to the U.S., where he'll face justice for his part in this global scheme. The Internet Archive has been breached again, this time through their Zendesk email support platform. The hacker, who had warned the archive weeks earlier about exposed GitLab authentication tokens, accessed over 800,000 support tickets, including requests for site removals from the Wayback Machine. Victims may have shared personal identification in those tickets, which the hacker could now access. This comes after a previous breach where 33 million users' data was stolen through the same GitLab token, which had been exposed for nearly 2 years. Despite repeated warnings from security researchers, the Internet Archive failed to rotate many of the compromised API keys. The hacker claims they stole 7 terabytes of data, although no proof was provided. The breach wasn't politically motivated or financially driven, but was carried out for cyber street cred, boosting the hacker's reputation among others in the data breach community. Researchers from ETH Zurich have discovered security vulnerabilities in several end-to-end encrypted cloud storage platforms, including Sync, pCloud, IceDrive, cFile, and Tresorit, which together serve over 22 million users. The researchers highlight flaws that could allow attackers, especially those controlling malicious servers, to access, modify, or inject files into users' storage. These issues undermine the platform's claims of complete data protection. The vulnerabilities varied by platform. Sync had issues with key material and file tampering, while pCloud and Ice Drive also struggled with unauthorized key manipulation. C-File was vulnerable to password brute forcing, and Tresorit, though faring better, still had weaknesses in key authentication. Despite notifying the companies, not all have responded promptly. Sync claims to be addressing the flaws, while Ice Drive has opted not to fix them. This research serves as a reminder that even encrypted platforms aren't foolproof and highlights the importance of staying vigilant with cloud storage security. Cisco confirmed that some of its files were stolen after a hacker known as Intel Broker offered company data for sale on a cybercrime forum. On October 14th, Intel Broker claimed to have accessed various sensitive assets, including source code, credentials, API tokens, and documents from companies like Microsoft, AT&T, and Verizon. The hacker also shared screenshots to back up these claims. Cisco launched an investigation and stated that, as of now, its systems were not breached. The stolen data came from a public-facing DevHub environment, a resource center for customers. Cisco noted that some files not meant for public download were exposed, but no sensitive personal or financial information was detected so far. In response, Cisco has disabled access to the affected sites and continues to investigate. Intel Broker has a history of targeting major companies, though the impact of this breach may be limited. Chinese disinformation group Spamouflage has renewed its attacks on Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, according to researchers at Clemson University's Media Forensics Lab. The group first targeted Rubio during his 2022 re-election campaign, flooding social media with pro-Rubio posts to drown out legitimate content. But in mid-September of this year, Spamouflage returned, testing new tactics with more sophisticated anti-Rubio messaging. Researchers believe Rubio could be the canary in the coal mine, and China may be using these new techniques for future campaigns. The posts, shared on platforms like X Twitter, Reddit, and Medium, appear more authentic, using hijacked accounts and possibly AI-generated content. Senator Rubio, a vocal critic of China, did not directly address the campaign, but warned that China is becoming more aggressive in its efforts to shape American opinion. Experts caution that we shouldn't underestimate China's disinformation efforts as they become more refined and dangerous. Security researchers have found a way to use AI chatbots for sneaky attacks that could expose personal details. They developed an algorithm that hides malicious prompts inside seemingly harmless ones, tricking users into sharing sensitive information like their CV data with attackers. The researchers uploaded CVs into chatbot conversations, and the bot sent back the personal information in the file. Erlance Fernandez from UC San Diego, who worked on the research, compared the attack to malware. What's fascinating here is that the malicious behavior can be triggered by a short, gibberish-like prompt without raising the user's suspicions. In response, Mistral AI quickly patched the vulnerability, stopping the chatbot from loading external URLs via Markdown syntax. Fernandez believes this may be one of the first times an adversarial prompt led to an actual fix. Experts advise users to be cautious about what personal data they share with AI bots and to avoid using unverified prompts from the internet. The U.S. Defense Department is looking to tap into Silicon Valley's tech talent by offering senior executives part-time roles as military reservists. These tech pros, like chief technology officers, would serve in high-ranking positions and be called in for short-term projects in areas like cybersecurity and data analytics. Brent Parmiter, the Defense Department's chief talent management officer, is spearheading the effort, aiming to bring dozens of tech professionals on board by next September, with plans to grow the program significantly over the next few years. This initiative marks a shift in Silicon Valley's relationship with the military, as tech companies increasingly see national security opportunities as beneficial. Parmeter hopes to place these tech experts in roles equivalent to major or lieutenant colonel in the Army and Air Force reserves. The goal is to strengthen the military's capabilities by leveraging private sector expertise without pulling these tech pros away from their keyboards and into combat. 6 years after the Spectre processor design flaws were first revealed, researchers are still finding vulnerabilities. Johannes Wickner and Kaveh Razavi from ETH Zurich uncovered a new cross-process Spectre attack that bypasses security defenses, like address space layout randomization on recent Intel processors. This attack allows hackers to leak sensitive data, such as root password hashes. Spectre attacks exploit speculative execution, a performance feature in modern CPUs, to access out-of-bounds memory, revealing secrets like passwords. Despite Intel's microcode patch in March of 2024, vulnerabilities remain in Intel's 12th to 14th generation Core processors and 5th and 6th generation Xeon chips. AMD Zen 1 and Zen 2 processors are also affected, with Linux users at risk. Russian prosecutors are seeking prison sentences of up to 6.5 years for 4 individuals linked to the notorious hacking group REvil. The group, responsible for major ransomware attacks, was shut down in 2021, with 14 members arrested by Russian authorities. While 14 were detained, only 8 have faced charges related to illegal financial transactions in a Moscow court. The defense argues that prosecutors have yet to provide concrete evidence. Key suspects face additional charges for unauthorized access to computer information. REvil became infamous for targeting high-profile individuals and companies, such as Lady Gaga and the U.S. software provider Kaseya. Notably, Russia's crackdown on REvil followed U.S. pressure, with President Biden urging action against cybercriminals affecting American businesses. During the arrests, authorities seized millions in cash, cryptocurrency, and luxury items from the suspects. Coming up after the break, our own Brandon Karpf speaks with Pete Newell, founder and CEO of BMNT. They're talking technology adoption and change in the DoD. Stay with us. Calling all InfoSec professionals. Are you dreading the annual scramble to create engaging content for Cybersecurity Awareness Month this October? KnowBe4 has your back with their brand new 2024 Resource Kit, featuring their own award-winning streaming quality show, The Inside Man. This comprehensive kit is a goldmine of free resources designed to both captivate and educate your users. Your users will enjoy free access to the heart-pounding first season of The Inside Man, and for the first time, engage in The Inside Man New Recruits game, where your users become cyber analysts hunting down a malicious insider threat. But there's more. You get access to a resource user guide packed with ideas and messaging, a weekly planner to help you roll out your campaign effortlessly, plus enough supporting training modules and assets to fill a whole month. Cover critical topics including AI and deepfakes, mobile device security, and incident response, all with the free kit. With KnowBe4's kit, say goodbye to outdated, unengaging content. It's all there, ready to go. Learn more at knowbe4.com/cybersecurity-kit. When it comes to ensuring your company has top-notch security practices, things can get complicated fast. Vanta automates compliance for SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and more, saving you time and money. With Vanta, you can streamline security reviews by automating questionnaires and demonstrating your security posture with a customer-facing trust center. Over 7,000 global companies like Atlassian, Flow Health, and Quora use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. Our listeners can claim a special offer of $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/cyber. That's VANTA.com/cyber for $1,000 off Vanta. Pete Newell is founder and CEO of BMNT, and he recently caught up with N2K's Brandon Karpf to discuss some of the challenges associated with technology adoption and change in the DoD.
I am here today with Pete Newell, the CEO and founder of BMNT. And Pete, today you and I are going to be talking about defense innovation and innovation adoption, some of the core problems that we have around technology adoption. But I'm glad, really pleased to have you join us today. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
No, thanks so much for the invitation. I'm looking forward to this.
So if we can just start off with your net assessment at the high level, where do we stand today in terms of defense innovation, technology adoption for DoD problem sets?
I think, largely I hate the word innovation. What defense needs to be able to do is accelerate its accomplishment of certain missions. So one of the things I learned on the battlefield, particularly in Iraq and Afghanistan, was it was the speed of adaptation of technology that was really a challenge. So we were significantly challenged in how long it took us to recognize that something had changed on the battlefield, new technology, new operating concept or something. And then being able to articulate that change in plain English so that somebody could go out and recruit people to help solve that problem, to build a prototype of something, to get back to the battlefield so that people could touch it and say, no, that's not really the problem, or yeah, you're moving in the right direction. That cycle time, or that OODA loop, is turning faster and faster and faster and faster to the point where we take so long to articulate the problem that by the time we go find people and build a solution, the problem's already changed. So I'm really big on talking to people about mission acceleration is first understanding what the organization's mission is and what it is on the ground, and what they need to do to increase that cycle time.
So what you just described to me sounds like a very human-centric process. You described a person observing a change, a person dictating what the mission objective is, a person taking that lesson learned and bringing it back to someone who can interpret it and turn it into a technology or a capability. I mean, is that human cycle working today, or is it not totally connected in that loop that you just described?
It varies dramatically from organization to organization to organization. First and foremost, innovation isn't a technology problem. We have plenty of tech.
Right.
We have old tech, we have new tech, we have tech we could buy. We have plenty of technology. It's a people problem. And I incorrectly, I call it a sociology problem. It's really an anthropology problem, as I was corrected by one of my analysts.
Leave it to the analyst to be pedantic.
I got such stinking smart people working at BMNT that I'm almost afraid to walk into the room and open my mouth some days. And we encourage them to challenge us. And
love that. Yeah.
I had this conversation once. Said, excuse me, and blunt to know she's got a degree in anthropology, but since you're talking about culture and laws and rules and human interaction, that's anthropology, not sociology. I'll stick to my wrong definition. It's a sociology problem because everything you just described requires a person to take action or not take action. So it's really people learning how to apply different rules or learning how to recruit networks of people to actually accelerate how battles they come together. That is the challenge of getting things done. Now, in some organizations, they recognize that, and they're starting to train their people, and they've written what we would call a doctrine for how the innovation process works within the organization. Senior leadership shows up to encourage people. They're engaged, and the organization is starting to actually coalesce around certain things faster and faster and faster. That's different than organizations where there's an entity at the side doing something, still butted against the rest of the bureaucracy of the organization. A really different application. I mean, I give a shout out to the Transportation Security Administration, which you would not imagine would be at the forefront of actually doing this, but they are the first government organization to actually write a doctrine document for innovation that explains how the process works within the organization. They train it, they execute it. The TSA administrator shows up at different events around the country to actually talk and listen and do, and then he goes back and tells the staff what they need to change. That's an amazing change from 10 years ago.
It sounds like they've made that a cultural identity. They've turned it into a core competency of the organization. So as opposed to what you described as a lot of organizations having the unit that's off to the side that is doing innovation, kind of innovation theater, actually incorporating it into the core process and the core functions of an organization. That's actually it's a great observation about TSA. That's not one that I would have made, but now thinking about it, I've seen them just in the last few years adopt new technologies and new capabilities, and the speed at which I even get through the security line at almost every airport has increased. So it does seem like they are actively making changes that we're not even aware of.
Yeah, they are such an amazing test tube for the innovation problem, because their footprint in the airports is severely constrained. That space that you see them in, that's what they get. And everything they do to extend their mission has to happen within that space. I think what you see coming from what I would say the view of both organizations is they're playing the long game. They realize that they now have to breed people internally who play by a different set of rules, but understand what the rules of the rest of the organization are. And so they're training a core, and they're growing them, giving them experience, and moving them into positions where they can actually do the work. And at the same time, they're training on the periphery. They're training finance people and contracting people and other people who aren't core innovators, but actually touch the system, so that when the innovation cells or whatever have to start building something that's fragile to get something new, they have people across the organization you can reach out to who understand the mission, understand the rules, and will help them do that. That is different from, say, the Defense Innovation Unit, Naval X, AFWorks, SpaceWorks, and all those others. They don't have a large body of people to draw on, and their services are not raising people who will eventually take those jobs. So when somebody leaves DIU, they go shopping for somebody new. And then they spend a year, 2 years getting out on the ground and trying to learn the job. And then they spend a year on the job and then they leave. So, come back to the sociality problem. If you don't build a new school to teach new rules and then give people the opportunity to get experience applying those rules in different circumstances, you're not going to build a bench of people to replace these. And you're constantly going to be fishing for people to take the job. You can't scale that way.
I'm interested then to pull the thread into the specifics here, and you're starting to hit on why really I and this podcast have been reaching out to folks in the defense innovation world and you and your teammates, and to understand these lessons learned, right? We work in the cybersecurity world where we've seen, if you listen to the first episode of this podcast in 2016, you would be hard pressed to realize that wasn't today. So what that shows is 8 years of technology development and new tools and new capabilities, and the shift from on-prem to cloud, and now cloud to hybrid cloud and multi-cloud, and yet we're still facing the same issues. All of that new tech hasn't really fundamentally changed anything, because it's just been bubblegum and duct tape on top of the same old problems. And so I'm really curious, how to implement what you're talking about, the sociological solutions to the human problems of security, whether it's national security, defense technology, what have you, cybersecurity. And you started talking about education. And so, how can organizations, whether it's DIU or Palo Alto Networks or the DoD itself or the Department of the Navy, how should they think about education and implement education? What should they be looking to accomplish there?
I think at the end of the day, you're looking for people to gain experience. That's the hard one. And we can talk about hacking for defense, the course, and what that does for student teams in terms of giving them experience. And I'll quote a Stanford student from the cohort that we taught. And this is a student who got to the end of it and said, and this is, Stanford student who'd been at Stanford for 6 years. He went his bachelor's and went through his master's degree. And he said, in my time at Stanford, this is the hardest class I've ever taken. He also said, this is the only class that allowed me to use everything I ever learned at Stanford, every network I ever built, to work on a real problem with real people that gave me real experience that will lead to the job that I want to have. And there's the harped on real problem, real people, real experience. Those students leave the course with such a sense of confidence that they understand how to do discovery around a problem, and then do discovery around potential solutions, and then discover pathways by which they can deliver things, that they have a pattern that will stick with them for the rest of their lives. And that was the genesis for the development for hacking for defense and the development of BMNT as a government-facing organization. Well, our job is to help the government organizations internally, while the Common Mission Project is focused on the education platform. From a problem-solving standpoint, the government has yet to internalize a professional military or civilian education system that does that, except in the places where those organizations are involved in hacking for defense, is supporting problems as problem sponsors or by actually getting people into the classroom. That's different than, I'll give you the counter to that. In the UK, hacking for defense is taught at Sandhurst, the military academy. If you are a senior military officer, you go to, the Defense War College at King's College. At King's College, you can get a degree in national security innovation. The capstone course for that degree program is hacking for defense. Those officers are now being taken from that course and being placed in higher level staffs. So in the UK, higher level, all the way down to the lower level, they are starting to invest in people. We've not figured out how to do that in the US yet. We're still pushing things to the side and doing a lot of one-off things, but there's no doctrine for it.
Pete, a perfect place to end this first interview. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been great to have you.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you back to talk more and to speak more with BMNT and the Common Mission Project.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks, Pete.
That's Pete Newell, founder and CEO of BMNT, speaking with our own Brandon Karpf. The IT world used to be simpler. You only had to secure and manage environments that you controlled. Then came new technologies and new ways to work. Now, employees, apps, and networks are everywhere. This means poor visibility, security gaps, and added risk. That's why Cloudflare created the first-ever connectivity cloud. Visit cloudflare.com to protect your business everywhere you do business. And finally, Microsoft is getting clever with phishing attackers, using a bit of spy versus spy deception to throw them off their game. At the B-Sides Exeter conference, Ross Bevington, who dubs himself Microsoft's head of deception, revealed how the tech giant lures cybercriminals into fake environments designed to look like real Azure tenants. These honeypots, filled with fake user accounts, emails, and activity, trick attackers into thinking they've struck gold, when in reality they're just playing in Microsoft's sandbox. Once the bad guys log in using phishing kits or stolen credentials, Microsoft tracks their every move. It's like handing them the keys to a mansion, only to let them wander aimlessly while watching from the security cameras. In 5% of cases, the attackers fall for it, wasting time hunting for sensitive data that doesn't exist. Meanwhile, Microsoft collects valuable intel, IP addresses, phishing methods, and behavior patterns. Bevington's team is fighting phishing at scale, with Microsoft monitoring about 25,000 phishing sites daily. For about 20% of these sites, they feed in honeypot credentials, and for the unlucky hackers who take the bait, Microsoft starts logging everything. And they don't stop there. They slow the entire experience down, dragging out the attacker's time in the fake environment for up to 30 days. The result? Attackers waste time, Microsoft gains crucial intelligence, and security teams around the world get better defense. It's a win-win, unless you're the hacker. And that's the Cyberwire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. Don't forget to check out the Grumpy Old Geeks podcast, where I contribute to a regular segment on Jason and Brian's show every week. You can find Grumpy Old Geeks where all the fine podcasts are listed. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your team smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Eiben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karpf. Simone Petrella is our president. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. And I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Quick question. Do your end users always, and I mean always without exception, work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? I didn't think so. So my next question is, how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this question: Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device, because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. And it's now available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra, and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at 1password.com/cyberwire. That's 1password.com/cyberwire.